Yeah, so thank you for attending on time our training back to our laptop. Then maybe uh, I will continue. Yeah, what we have discussed. Before that, we talk about criteria, and we also talk about screening and contract type, make or buy analysis, and 5 process groups. Also, 10 knowledge area and some process related to procurement, project procurement management in particular. And then we will also discuss about contract, the contents of contract. Yeah, of course, we cannot rely on a standard template in the project because project procurement is not a purchase order. It's not an ordinary purchase order. So we cannot use standard form or standard template that contains only, for example, item to be purchased, quantity, and price, and something like that. Because in the project, we have to be more careful regarding terms and conditions. Then in the project also, we will have some work packets and some deliverables. Some deliverables are normally part of the contract and can be also imposed internally as part of the internal process. Deliverables is the form of, can be the, for example, is printed reports or printed scope of work, WBS, and also some engineering related reports or output, and also can be in the form of non-technical, non-technical deliverables such as survey report, results of soil tests, maybe, and permit from authority, from local authority, that can be considered as deliverables. So project team, including procurement, when it comes to contract, should understand what are the deliverables that needs to be produced, that needs to be delivered, needs to be created, needs to be prepared for every contract or every project. There may be more than 2 or 3 deliverables. In a construction, for example, permit from local authority can be one of the deliverables. And then drawing, engineering drawing, bill of quantity, S-curve, and also project schedule, for example, and project resource can be deliverables, considered as deliverables. And then we have to also review the schedule baseline, and then the contract will reflect the schedule baseline and related milestones. In the schedule, as we know, there will be several milestones, including start date, finish date, and in between those two dates, there are several milestones. Uh, for example, in the construction, like a found the construction ready, and the for example, maybe the land is ready, land clearance is ready, and maybe the roof or the final part of the factory, such as roof and maybe walls and columns, also must be ready at certain dates. Yeah, so there should be an interim target, like it's called milestone, right? And that can be considered as uh, part of the contract also. For example, when the construction is ready, that means 50% of the project is done, and when all the mechanical, electricals are already working, maybe it's considered 80%, and when overall a factory can be tested, then maybe it's like 90% of the whole project is done. So that should be also stated clearly in the contract. Performance reporting and also the period of reporting should be also stated in the contract. For example, the report should contain several information like progress, target, uh, and S-curve, for example. Also, uh, some interim report, weekly report, and also final report, quality control report, and so on and so forth, should be clearly put in the contract, because that may be related to the milestones and to the payment term and requirements for payment. Roles and responsibility, of course, this is very important. And if there are several contracts, then we have to make sure that one contract and another contract does not overlap or does not conflict one another. Or in other words, we have to make sure there is a integration, there is a consistent coordination between one contract with another, which is can be reflected in the roles and responsibility of the parties involved in the contract. Place of performance, pricing, payment term, place of delivery can be different with the place of performance, and that should be also stated. Acceptance criteria, maybe it's a good idea to consider and to put acceptance criteria in the contract. Although I think it's quite rare, yeah. But you can put it as a attachment of the contract. For example, attachment acceptance criteria is attached. That kind of statement is needed, and acceptance criteria which is attached is not separate from the contract, but is part of the contract, not a separate part of the contract. Warranty is of course needed. Support or retention period, retention period. For example, 1 year after the project is handed over, for operation, then all problems related to the construction will still under contractor's responsibility. So maybe some payment will also be retained until the retention period is over. Yeah. Fees and retainer fees or professional fees may also be stated in case we use some services in the contract instead of construction services. We may also use professional services. So that will depend on the type of project. We have to also highlight or remember that when we talk about contract, we have to understand the whole situation of the project, like schedule, scope, resource, our constraint or limitation, and also the supplier's constraint, and also some external constraint that may happen, external issues that may happen surrounding the contract. So the content of the contract will be connected to our perception regarding those concerns, including some procurement risk and also project risk. Yeah, for example, in this case, project risk is to do with inadequate need analysis. Yeah, maybe we are in such a hurry, so we don't have we don't allocate enough time to analyze what are the needs of the new factory, what are the requirement, what are the functional requirement and non-functional requirement that is required, yeah, by the project. So we are in such a hurry, so we don't have enough time and enough coverage to analyze everything in the beginning. Maybe also poor supplier selection can also be happening in our project. So one of the mitigation strategy is we have to prepare a weighting system, clear criteria, and we have to do some research, some benchmarking, some survey, and some analysis regarding potential vendors or suppliers in the project. Supply chain disruptions can be also be of concern in this case. So we have to be careful. Yeah, supply chain involves an external factors and several external entities that are beyond our reach, yeah, beyond our control, basically. And also in efficient contract management, that means this is maybe looks easy, but in reality, this is also quite tricky. So contract management is actually project management itself, especially if most of the work is to be outsourced to the third parties. So inefficient can mean a lack of people, lack of focus, lack of knowledge regarding project environment and regarding project scope, regarding everything surrounding the project. And also change management, yeah, can be linked to this problem also. So many change requests, so many scope creep, so many inaccurate estimates in the project. So the contract is actually not in line anymore with the real situation on site, and we forget to revise. We forget to come back to the table and discuss our contract uh, properly. Yeah. So we have to be careful with this. Unorganized supplier relationship management. Yeah, this is also important, especially if we rely too much on one supplier and or too many suppliers surrounding the project. So we have to make sure that every supplier is heard, and any report from suppliers should be take into consideration.
Fadana,
Yeah,
may I ask you,
yeah.
what are the examples
Sorry.
of supply chain disruptions? The
Yeah,
example of
yeah, yeah,
supply
yeah.
chain
No,
disruptions.
supply
Yeah,
chain
because you
disrupt.
mentioned that it's external factor. What kind of external
Yeah,
factor?
yeah. For example, there are disruptions in the transportation, in the logistic, maybe in the seaport or in the airport, yeah, that can disrupt the supply chain process. Also, sometimes there are strikes in some countries. Strikes are also common, and lack of raw materials in some manufacturing companies, yeah, can also be of trouble with our supply chain. Will impact on, for example, the price of the particular item, or maybe even lack of supply, yeah, from the source of materials. Yeah, that is to my memory, that's one of the problem in the
Okay.
supply chain.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah,
your answer.
yeah,
Fadana.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, this can happen also in especially in the technology sector. Yeah, can also happen maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. There is a lack of semiconductor, and also that have impact on electronic supplies, including for some automobiles companies that nowadays they use also electronic parts in their vehicles. Yeah, so in other words, we have to be careful, yeah, with procurement risks, especially those that is outsourced or that is purchased from a long supply chain, yeah, and complex supply chain. The project risk, we have to also prepare like a risk register. Yeah, risk register is part of our responsibility. For example, delay in delivery of raw material, and we have to also analyze probability and impact, and also discuss who will be responsible for this, and what if this particular risk happens, what should be done. Yeah, so project manager or project management team normally will need this kind of risk register also. Yeah, so we can identify maybe 5 or 10 risk item along the supply chain that may or might happen. Yeah, although it hasn't happened. Yeah, it is not happening already, but we have to put it in our radar, in our risk register, in order for the whole team to anticipate and to discuss how to mitigate, any particular risk, no matter whether it is low probability but high impact, or maybe high probability and low impact. But we still have to anticipate, because that may disrupt our schedule, our project schedule. And the sad part is supply chain is beyond our control, right? So it's outside the company, basically.
But then
Yeah.
what if, for example, the site, the condition of the site, for example, is
Yeah.
quote unquote dangerous,
Mhm.
because, for example, the condition of the mud or
Mm.
whatsoever, that will be also mentioned in this risk register, or
Mm.
how, or safety, for example,
Yeah, yeah,
safety measures.
yeah. That's a good question. So if in the maybe in the construction, you have to conduct like soil test, before, right? Soil test.
Yes, yes.
So if the finding is not favorable for the project, so it's not a risk anymore. It has become an issue, right? So we have to prepare another document, which is issue log. Yeah. So issue log we have to also prepare, and risk register we also have to highlight. Yeah. Risk means something that does not happen yet, but it may happen. It may happen, like raining or earthquake or floods. Yeah, it may happen anytime, maybe around the factory. Yeah, and if it happens, maybe with medium probability. If the construction is weak, maybe it will have high impact, right? High impact, maybe loss of life, right? Some people will be affected, their life, including stakeholders surrounding the factory. But regarding soil test on soil condition, land condition, I think if it's already surveyed, it's already measured and observed by the authority, by the expert who is knowledgeable in that matter, I think it has become an issue. Yeah. So we have to be careful when a risk has become an issue. That means we have to, as soon as possible, solve the problem. Yeah, we have to have issue resolution strategy. How to anticipate the soft land or the muds that are surrounding our project. Yeah. So these two, I think, is related, risk and issue. But no matter whether it's part of risk or part of issue, we have to have what is the response, what is the mitigation, and what is the solution, yeah, to the problem at hand, or to the risk that we have identified before. That is my comment on that. Yeah. Yeah, I think if the project, I mean, the owner maybe insists that the project should proceed regardless of the land condition, then we have to also put more risk identification and write it down in the risk register. Yeah, for example, due to land condition, the building may not be strong enough, and especially during earthquake, for example, right? the probability, and then maybe in Jakarta or around Jakarta, I don't know, maybe it's around, maybe low probability. I don't know, yeah. We have to uh, look for more data and information to come up with our conclusion, yeah, whether it's low or high or medium probability. But maybe for impact, we can also analyze due to the nature of our factory, maybe with that have lots of steels and lots of heavy items, then the impact will be high if the factory is in the earthquake situation. Yeah. So this is very important. Yeah. And if the supply chain team does not have the time or authority or the uh, competency to analyze, then you have to work together with the vendor, with the contractor, right? With the contractor, ideally before you award the contract, yeah, you have to analyze or assess the attitude of the contractors regarding project risk. If the contractor doesn't care about project risk, that means maybe they are not uh, eligible for our project. Yeah. That's my opinion. But if they have quite a lot of exposure in the past regarding project risk, and they are quite open regarding potential problem or risk, then that means maybe we can, and as long as they know how to mitigate, and I think they are quite eligible, yeah, to be considered as part of the project partner. I think that should answer your question. Yeah, if there is another questions, please feel free, yeah, to. Yeah, so ideally we will have to prepare a risk register. Yeah, maybe later if we have time, we will try to prepare some kind of risk register and WBS and network diagram or critical path. Yeah. But if we don't have time, I will just send you some sample of a case study maybe, and you can then later on try to fill up the project plan or prepare a project plan, and you can share it with your team in the office. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, let's proceed to the next slide. Yeah, this slide is the summary that we are going to discuss anyway in the next slide. Yeah, so this is taken from the previous PBOK, which is, I think, is quite good for your to-do list, yeah, for your reminder when you do project procurement. First of all, you have to make sure the scope is already finalized. Yeah, you ask the project team whether or not the scope is already finalized. Yeah. And also supported by requirement document. This is the input. Yeah? The input means you need this before you come up with procurement management plan, because before you produce the output. Yeah? You need the input, specific input before you can produce but a specific output. For example, a scope baseline, you might ask your team whether it's already approved by the relevant stakeholders. And then there is a backup document, requirement document, maybe the result of interview, some drawing, some analysis is also needed. Maybe there is already umbrella contract in place in your company with particular contractors. It's called teaming agreement. For example, for steel supply, you will use PTA. Yeah. For cable supply, you will use PTB, something like that. That is called teaming agreement. Yeah, you have to also review, maybe in the form of memorandum of understanding between PT Nikomas and other partner of the company. Risk register ideally is related to project team, so you just have to access this and discuss if everything is, if you need some explanation, you have to discuss. And also risk-related contract decision. Yeah, so you have to again, like I said, contract should reflect our perception about risk. Yeah. So and also project schedule, of course, you need project schedule and cost estimate. Yeah, cost estimate. Also, you need cost per and cost baseline. Yeah? This is called budget, basically. Yeah? Budget for each work package. Budget you will compare with quotation from vendor later. And then some enterprise environmental factors means maybe you need some government fee, for example, maybe for them to issue a permit, for them to issue a water supply to your new factory, or electricity supply, energy supply, or maybe for community handling. Yeah, maybe this is cultural specific in your area. Maybe there is a cultural situation in which you have to prepare some budget, to engage your surrounding, and also your internal process. This is the input. Yeah, I believe you already have internal process in hand regarding supply chain procurement, but I'm not sure if you already have project-related procurement procedures. Yeah, because project is sometimes unique. Yeah? So maybe you have to tailor. Yeah, you have to tailor, and you have to analyze the strength, weakness of the existing process that can or may harm the project schedule. Yeah. So you have to be careful, with this. PM may be upset, when they see maybe it's a lengthy process that will be needed in order to buy something, for example. Yeah. So sometimes project people doesn't have enough patience. So you have to be careful with this, with the organizational process asset that is too lengthy, and you have to consider this as a strength or weakness. And then don't forget, in the company or outside the company, you have some experts. You have some staff who are knowledgeable and who are experienced with the procurement plan, especially in the company or in the construction project, or in a particular location. Expert judgment doesn't have to be academic. Doesn't have to be academic. It can be field expert or local expert, or just those who are familiar and those who are willing to share their experience. And make or buy analysis, I think we already discussed. Contract type, we already discussed. Don't forget, we normally come up with a lump sum contract or fixed price contract, but there are other options like time and material and cost reimburse. And then as a supply chain team, then you have to consider to use and to analyze different type of contract types, different contract types. And then the output is that you are expected to produce a procurement management plan for the project. Maybe this is can be done together with project team. Project management plan is the subsidiary of project management plan. So before kick-off meeting, this document can be inserted to the project management plan. And then statement of work, maybe there are several items to be outsourced or to be purchased. Then maybe there are several statement of work and scope of work, TOR, term of reference. Nowadays, you can further study, you can further learn in more details. What are the suitable statement of work for your industry? By using Google or other social media or learning platform. But this is good for you as a checklist, as a general guidance. Make or buy decision and then procurement document, including TOR and other source selection criteria. We discussed this also in the form of weighting system. Weighting system. You should have this, I think. We cannot just rely on our instinct, on our gut feeling when we choose a contractor, or when we choose a supplier. We have to have special criteria for a particular procurement project. And then after your procurement management plan is finished and everything is done, you can participate in the execution phase, in the project execution. This is called conduct procurement. So you work hand in hand with the project manager. The project manager will actually refer to the project management plan, including including procurement document. And also source selection criteria will be the input now. Before it was the output. Source selection criteria was the output of the plan procurement. But during project execution, the output can become the input. So that means you have to prepare first in the planning stage, and because that will be used in the execution stage. So for example, source selection criteria can be a valid reference for a bidding process, for tender process. maybe you will ask, should we explain this to vendor, or should we keep it for ourselves? Yeah. So I think that will depend. Yeah. That will depend on your judgment. Yeah. Of course, it's a good idea if you can openly inform, yeah, this criteria to the potential sellers. Yeah. As the input, also you will have to have a short list, yeah, a short list of sellers or qualified sellers. Yeah, you have to have it already. Yeah. During execution, you will have to have a database, a vendor database already uh, in hand, right? And then maybe after you do some uh, bidders conference or a meeting with the prospective bidders, as we can see here, bidder conference. After you conduct this, you will receive some kind of proposal, yeah, some kind of proposal, and you and team will review and evaluate and make a final conclusion. Of course, one of the basis is the source selection criteria. Yeah, source selection criteria will be the main or one of the main reference, yeah, for considering who the ranking, yeah, the rank of the proposal. Tools and technique that you may use is bidder conference. Yeah, maybe you have had this before in your company, maybe through online or face to face. You invite either one by one or all together. Yeah. In the government project, normally the invitation is openly published, yeah, in the website or maybe in the newspaper. Yeah. Depending on the value of the project. Yeah. Sometimes you can also have direct contact with your network, your prospective sellers. But if the value of the project is quite big, I think it's better if you be more careful, yeah, in selecting your potential contractors. Yeah. That means you will have advertising. Yeah, you will have to advertise your intention for tender, your plan for tender, and then you will invite them either online or face to face, and then you will explain your TOR, yeah, your term of reference, and uh, along the way you will also have to prepare your independent estimate or owner estimate. Yeah. This is the tools that you need. And then after maybe 1 month or 3 weeks or 2 weeks, the proposal will come, and then you will have to select, yeah, and then you will have to award the contract and update your resource calendar. Yeah, this is done by your project team, not by procurement, I think. Yeah. Of course, procurement negotiation is also part of the tools and techniques. Yeah, negotiations can be in the form of uh, price negotiation or other terms and conditions like deliverables or other terms and conditions. Yeah. And in this case, you have to, I think, work together with the project team, yeah, instead of doing it by yourself. And then during execution, there are two, actually, this is part of control procurement. Yeah. Control and administer procurement is also part of job in the procurement area. Yeah. In this case, you will receive performance report, input. Yeah. You will need a performance report for each contract, maybe in the form of S-curve. Yeah. In general, project management can produce S-curve on weekly basis. Contractor is quite accustomed to producing S-curve. But of course, you have the authority to do inspection and audit. Yeah. So you see here in the tools and technique column, there is inspection and audit. That means as a procurement, as a supply chain officer, you have the authority to go to the site or to go to the warehouse and see the result. Yeah. See the result, witness the result. So then you can compare what is reported by project team and what is actually happen in the project site. Yeah. Inspection and audit. This is a very good tools and technique. Yeah, I think this will eliminate some fraud, some misinformation, yeah, in the project. That is normally that can happen also in the project. So a performance report, you deserve, yeah, to have this, and also a CR also you deserve. CR is especially approved CR, especially approved change request. You deserve this, especially if it's related to the contract. Yeah, and especially if it is impacting on for example schedule and cost, yeah, and budget. This may lead to the contract revision. Yeah, so approved change request may lead to contract revision. You have to analyze whether this will need revision in the contract or it doesn't have to be revised. Okay. Yeah, you have to imagine the situation in the project is really sometimes hard to control. That's why you have to analyze from report and you have to use this as a checklist in order for you to decide whether you want to go to the site, to the project site, or you just have to call a meeting, or you just have to rely and trust the report. Yeah. And also talk directly, informally or formally to the stakeholders related to the particular contract. Yeah, this is called a contract change control system. Yeah, this is not an easy part. Actually, you have to escalate, you have to reprint, you have to reproduce, you have to maybe discuss the terms and condition, and some negotiation may be needed. Payment system, yeah, is also part of the, I think this is quite common. And claim admin, like I said this morning, is quite rare. Yeah, I think maybe sometimes we neglect, yeah, or we forget to accommodate this in the contract, or we don't even have the policy for claim admin, for claim process. Claim in this case means that the third parties asking for payment due to problems on the owner side. Yeah, on the owner side. So if, for example, they start to send some item to the warehouse, but the warehouse is closed in the morning, and maybe it's closed until 3 o'clock because of the activities in the warehouse. Yeah, so the vendor has to wait for several hours, and that will have impact on their costs, their drivers, their trucks, and their other schedule. And then they ask you whether it's possible to claim, yeah, for the owner, to the owner, and then the owner can compensate for the loss that is happening. Yeah. So this is called claim admin. Actually, this is also a good reminder for us. Yeah. Maybe if we have a claim procedures in the company, then contractors will be quite eager to work with us, something like that. And yeah,
Yeah, Pak Dana,
yeah,
what if about insurance? Insurance comes in the tools and techniques.
yeah. Good questions. Yeah, insurance. Yeah, actually, this is should be part of risk management. Yeah, actually, but formally, it's not mentioned here. Yeah, it's not mentioned, but it should be part of risk management. Yeah, so if we perceive some risk, then we might have to pay for risk premium. Yeah, for insurance premium. Yeah, for the damage or for the accident, maybe something like that. So it depends on the risk register, and then we will provide uh, a risk premium, yeah, to mitigate some loss. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but is that answer your question?
Oh, yes,
Yeah. So
thank you,
again,
Pak
you,
Dan.
you have to prepare risk register. Yeah, don't forget, or you remind your project manager or your project other project team to prepare risk register. Yeah. So then you can come up with insurance or something like that. Okay. Yeah. So administer procurement is nowadays called control procurement. Yeah. That is a stronger word, control, rather than administer. And the output of administer procurement is, of course, a procurement document. Yeah? Procurement documentation is very important because, again, like I said, maybe project team doesn't have special staff, yeah, to document all the procurement related matters. And then we have close procurement, yeah, close procurement. Before we conduct, administer, and close procurement. So sometimes a project team is happy because the project is almost close, right? But it doesn't mean actually the project uh, is really perfect. Yeah, so we have to use our authority. Yeah, whether it is in the during control procurement or administer procurement, or whether it is during project closure or procurement closure. Yeah, don't forget to audit. Yeah, to go to warehouse or to the project site and do some audit, maybe, and do some inspection. Yeah, you work together with quality department, and then maybe the user also should be invited. This is can be part of commissioning, right? Project commissioning. Of course, this is there are other knowledge area that is involved in this whole process, like quality control and scope verification, yeah, including commissioning. including handover to operation and maintenance. Yeah, so the factory will be hand over to operation and maintenance later on. But the point is during closure phase, we should not forget that this is a very sensitive stage, because vendor will finish their job, right? Contractors will be finalizing their work. And ideally, audit is done not only during closure, but we can remind our PM to do it on more regular basis, yeah, audit and inspection. Yeah, maybe on monthly basis or at least once a month basis. Yeah, we should do this. But at least during the closing phase, we do again procurement audit, and then we can close one by one every work package with maybe some retention, yeah, and with some notes that some parts are not completed. Maybe they have to deliver the final work, yeah. And this is a part of negotiation, yeah, part of negotiation. Of course, you cannot rely on your memory, yeah. You cannot rely on your feeling and memory. You have to use a project management plan as your baseline, as your reference, including your project, including procurement document. Yeah. So there is actually the whole process during project procurement, yeah, as mentioned in the PMBOK. So maybe before we continue, is there any other questions maybe?
Yeah, Pak Dana, about the close procurement, the definition of close procurement is basically when the project finish and there are no problem, retention already paid, or how?
Okay, so close procurement is ideally consists of two parts. From project side, if all the work mentioned in the project is already completed, then we can consider the procurement is already finished also. And retention is actually part of operation and operation and management. Yeah, maybe it will last for 6 months or 6 months or 1 year, and then after 1 year, the retention amount will be invoiced, yeah, by the contractor. Maybe they can send the invoice directly to the finance. So basically, I think we should limit, yeah, our responsibility just until project closure, or until everything is delivered, yeah, outside, apart from retention. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, we can discuss, yeah, here, because yeah, otherwise we might miss something, or maybe I can continue and then you can ask me again later. Yeah. Yes.
Oh yes, Pak Dana, it's okay, you can continue.
Yeah. Okay. This is the short version of procurement process, right? You can explain this to your PM, to your team, and explain the duration involved, because project is concerned with time and schedule, basically. Yeah, so time is only 24 hours a day. Although we can make a nice schedule, but maybe we cannot control our time, right? Maybe a week is only 40 hours. And the question maybe if the schedule is for a particular task is, for example, 40 hours or 5 days, can we spend the whole hours for this project? Yeah, maybe in reality we just spend, I think, 25% of our time to focus on the project, right? So even if we schedule ourselves like 5 days or 40 hours a week, in reality, maybe we just allocate maybe 25% of the scheduled time, right? So this can be tricky. You can also discuss this with your PM. Yeah, for example, make or buy decision is part of actually project management team, business management team, and then you can get the information from them, and then but also of course you have also the right to discuss. You have the right to come up with ideas, yeah, to better alternative or something like as a procurement engineer, for example. Solicitation planning means you are looking for potential partners, third parties. You can explain this will take maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks, maybe. Yeah, uh, depending on the how many work package that we have to search in the market. Not to mention proposals. Sometimes we receive very poor proposals with poor understanding of our needs, so it doesn't reflect really our needs. Yeah. So maybe we can just throw away this proposal. We get rid of this proposal and we then try to find another third party. Yeah. So this will take like maybe it's quite a lengthy process, I think. Be careful with this, and also source selection. If you don't have contract criteria, you don't have tender source selection criteria, that means you have to rely on your feeling. Yeah, you rely on your management decision, and this can take also a long time. Yeah, because some people may favor for vendor A, another will favor for vendor B, and there are very strong discussion happening in order to issue the winner, yeah, in order to make announcement as to who will be the winner. So we cannot guarantee the duration will be fulfilled. Yeah, the planned duration will be fulfilled. But of course, we still have to give them an idea. Yeah, give them a target. Yeah, and because this is procurement, maybe this is not only limited to project manager, but this can also be the responsibility of higher level management. Yeah, so this can be also another tricky situation. Yeah, for supply chain people. Yeah, that's why you have to be firm in this. Yeah, be firm in this. Yeah, and if possible, ask the project manager to lead this process. Yeah. And then the procurement or supply chain will support. Yeah, but the communication, the escalation process, especially for example with the senior management, yeah, should be led by, should be coordinated by project manager as the leader of the project, because he or she is also responsible for the project schedule. So if there is a delay in this part, project will be in danger. Yeah. But when it comes to after the particular contractor is already selected, then I think the work for supply chain is better I mean, it's easier. Yeah, it's easier because all you have to do is administer the contract and just monitor, communicate frequently. Yeah, make sure you don't choose the wrong partner. Yeah, and make
Pak
sure.
Dana,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Could you remind me again what is RFP?
Re- request
Mhm.
for proposal.
Okay.
There is
Okay.
also another RF, yeah. RFI, I mentioned RFI is request for I request for information.
Information. Okay.
And then RFQ,
Request for quotation.
yeah, request for quotation.
Okay.
And you should
Okay.
you should remember that don't especially, I mean, please don't always ask for RFP, yeah, to the vendors, because for them RFP is more serious, right? RFP can be a thick document, can be a lengthy document that shows your needs, that shows the scope of work, yeah. So they will have some effort, yeah, some effort to prepare for RFP. Yeah, for example, you need a server from a IT vendor, right? And then you issue a letter. The subject is RFP. Yeah, of course, the a more better subject for this is RFI. Yeah, please send me your server specification and configuration. The subject in the letter is RFI. But if you need some price information, then the subject should be RFQ, right? Should be RFQ. Yeah. When do we need to use RFP in our tender? Yeah. Of course, ideally, I mean, ideally, after you know the detail of the scope, right? So your construction design is already finalized, including everything, yeah. Bill of material also, and 3D, yeah, three-dimensional design, and all the materials that you will need for the factory, ya kan? And then the size of the factory, everything. Then it's better you can use RFP in the subject. Yeah. But another question is whether all the scope of work that have been prepared by your engineers, should there be shared? Yeah, everything, whether can they be shared through WhatsApp or through email, for example. Yeah. So ideally, maybe you have to face-to-face. You have to make a face-to-face meeting first. Yeah, you have to make a, and you have to be careful with the vendor. Yeah, because they will have very high interest. Yeah, they will be very eager to get your project. Yeah, especially in this situation. Yeah, everything deserve a good project. Yeah. So be careful if you want to develop a new factory. Maybe just limit your potential contractor. Yeah. Don't invite everybody. That's yeah. After that, after you send the award, contracting, I mean, you sign the contract, then I think your work is already easier, yeah. And then you have to just to make sure communication will go smoothly, and then the quality control and the term of payment, the requirement for payment can be fulfilled by all the contractors. Yeah. Otherwise, there may be a problem, and then the vendors will be like fed up with the process, and then they will start to slow down the progress. Yeah. So there is a correlation also between contract admin and project schedule, something like that. Yeah. So, and we have to be aware, like in the morning, we discussed that sometimes procurement and project team is a separate department, right? So project manager doesn't have authority to control what is happening in the procurement office. Yeah, they don't have authority. Yeah, they have to escalate first, maybe to the higher manager before they can uh, talk to procurement, maybe to speed up some process or to change some procedures. Yeah. So this is from a project manager point of view can be also quite a burden. Yeah, psychologically can be a burden also when they have to work with procurement and supply chain team. Yeah, because they don't have immediate authority. They don't have direct authority to the procurement process. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then let's see. Yeah, this is the simple process, but this is another process, right? I mean, you can also explain to your project team that our procurement process is not that simple. Yeah, the lead time is quite lengthy. Yeah, so please understand that this project is quite complicated, and we have to be careful. Yeah, this can start from requirement gathering, right, and then maybe the team can conduct preliminary evaluation, yeah, and then vendor shortlist. Maybe they can ask supply chain to submit vendor shortlist, and then uh, maybe you can invite them to propose, yeah, their approach to the project, including their price, their schedule, their team, and everything, their solution. And then after that, we come up with a decision. Yeah, we come up with a decision. So it's quite a lengthy and complicated project. There is a functional evaluation, there is a technical evaluation, there is a product evaluation, right? There are so many things that you have to do, and you have to invite relevant stakeholders, right? Maybe regarding technical, you invite some engineers, maybe for mechanical, electrical, air conditioning, for example, lighting, floor, and something like that. Functional maybe is to do with the factory itself, maybe shoe factory, or should have a special uh, condition, right? Yeah, and then you come up with the final vendor evaluation. And then after that, after steering committee approval, you notify, yeah, you notify the selected vendor, selected winner. Yeah, of course, it's a good idea. You also notify the vendors that are not selected at this moment, but maybe in the future we will work together, something like that. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Uh, so this can be frustrating to the project manager, but maybe the company needs the best candidate, right? So the challenge is how can you compress this thing? Can you do it in a month or can you do it in 2 months? Depend, yeah. So be careful with this. Yeah, this is also another illustration that sometimes uh, communication can be quite lengthy, can be quite complicated, right? from the owner bidding stage to the contractor to the PMO, if you have PMO or management konstruksi, or you maybe the owner, the management needs a second opinion. Yeah, second opinion. That's why they invite internal PMO or maybe external consultant for their opinion, right? So this is tricky, yeah. And the question is this the responsibility of supply chain team, right? So I mean, in my opinion, maybe it's a joint responsibility, yeah, with the project manager. But for you to remember, maybe project manager does not fully understand what is happening inside the supply chain area. Yeah, again, this is just a note regarding you just asked about bidding document. There are three. The popular bidding document, RFI, RFQ, RFP. And the statement of work is actually the description of the procurement item. It reflects specification, quality requirement, performance metrics. A description of collateral services required, acceptance methods and criteria. This is hard one. This is the hard one. You have to work together with user. Yeah, you have to talk to the engineer and user in general. Yeah, this is tricky. And performance data, what are the data that needs to be supplied? Maybe in the form of speed or weight or strength, whatever, yeah, performance data. And quality should be also stated there. Period and place of performance and currency. Currency, maybe you use US dollar or rupiah or combination. Payment schedule and warranty. Yeah. So this statement of work can then be translated into term of reference. Yeah, later on. Yeah. So before I forget, this is all mentioned in PMBOK. Yeah, in PMBOK. Yeah. PMBOK version, at least version 6. You should get from anywhere PMBOK 6 in the form of soft copy. Yeah. Procurement strategy is delivery methods. Yeah. Delivery methods, type of agreement like fixed price, time and materials, and also cost reimburse, and procurement phases. Yeah, maybe you remember or you are aware that some companies they use 3 phase, like EPC company. Maybe you know EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction, right? Company like maybe you know Rekayasa Industri or IKPT, maybe IKPT or Toyo. Toyo, they use, or maybe I forget. There are several others companies. They use 3 major steps to make sure everything is quite okay in the bigger project. Yeah. So engineering phase must be finalized. Engineering. Yeah. So this is done by the designer, by the solution maker, right? Whether it is internally or externally done. Yeah, for example, in the complicated factory like oil and gas, or in natural gas processing, in the fertilizing industry, it's like a complicated factory they will make, right? Complicated, multi vendor one. Yeah. So you have to make sure the design. So the keyword there is engineering phase. After that, they come up with bill of quantity. and a bill of material, and then the procurement will take over the work. Yeah, they will do all the thing, including making sure, yeah, that the potential partner is ready for construction phase. Yeah, so after procurement, EPC, engineering, procurement, and C is construction. Yeah, so something like that. So this is called strategy, right? Strategy. Maybe you can also use that kind of thing, like EPC phase or other type of factory project management. And procurement management plan, what can be expected from this plan is how can you coordinate and integrate, yeah, with other stakeholder, other project element. How can you, maybe in the form of weekly meeting, or maybe on day-to-day basis, you send your own staff, yeah, like special contracting officer. Yeah. Okay, I give you special staff, yeah, to your project. Yeah, so she can sit in your project room, something like that. And then timetable for key procurement activities, procurement metrics, and responsibilities. Yeah, maybe you can use RESI matrix, as explained this morning. RESI matrix. Maybe in your team you have Mr. A, Mr. B, Mrs. C, Mrs. D, yeah, and you distribute all the related procurement activities in the form of RESI matrix, or even a better matrix. Sometimes assumption and constraint will also help you in managing your procurement. Yeah. For example, assumption means the rate of Indonesian rupiah to US dollar is 15,000. But if the rate is changed, so maybe the assumption changed also. Currency use and owner estimate. Yeah, if you read independent estimate, that means it is owner estimate. And I also said a risk management issue. Yeah, you have to explain to your team there are risks also along the way, and also pre-qualified sellers or shortlist. Yeah, ideally you already have some partner. Yeah. This is the S curve. Yeah, you can ask, and you deserve to have this S curve, be it in the form of project level S curve or a particular vendor related S curve. Yeah. By looking at this, you can see that there is a problem in the project, and you can also see whether the particular contract is still on budget or is already over budget. Yeah, but this is not your I think concern. Yeah, I mean this is more a project manager concern, but procurement should know this for future lesson. Yeah, for future lesson. Okay, I think we almost come to an end. Yeah. Regarding Perpres 12 number, Perpres is Peraturan Presiden, right? Number 12, 2021. This is additional reference that is needed for government related project only. Yeah. So you can download this. It's available in the Google. So government insists on owner estimate that should be prepared, yeah, before we invite any prospective vendors. And we know that owner estimate is a combination of scope, schedule, resource, and design, right? And also a requirement. Yeah. So this is just for your info. But of course, you can download it for reference, no problem. Maybe you can find some good information also. Regarding FIDIC also, FIDIC is just an international standard It stands for internet. I'm not really expert in this. FIDIC stands for International Federation of Consulting Federation internationally. Yeah, maybe this is in France. Yeah, FIDIC is a global organization representing the consulting industry. Uh, FIDIC is known for its widely used suite of standard contracts for the construction and engineering industries. These contracts are designed to provide a fair and balanced framework for project management, ensuring clarity and reducing disputes among parties. Yeah, so we can use FIDIC normally in the international contract. Yeah, but for reference, maybe there are some good point that you can use. Yeah. So key aspect of FIDIC is it consists of standard contracts uh, suited to different type of projects and procurement methods. The most popular include Red Book, condition of contract for constructions, often used for building and engineering works designed by the employer. Yellow Book, condition of contract for plan and design builds, typically used where the contractor is responsible for design as well as construction. Yeah, so depending on the situation, PT Nikomas, for example, the factory is designed by you, or you allow the contractor to also design and build the factory. Yeah. Silver Book, this is for EPC, yeah, EPC. We just mentioned about EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction. There are three big phases in the complicated factory or manufacturing project, or normally can be also called turnkey project, in which owner does not have to be worried. He just have to let the EPC contractor do the work, yeah, until it is in operation. Yeah. Used for projects where the contractor takes almost all responsibility. Yeah. And Green Book of FIDIC is short form of contract used for simpler or smaller project. Yeah. Yeah. So FIDIC is recognized, used worldwide, and provide common basis for international project. Yeah. Also, FIDIC, there are training guideline resource to help user understand, implement its contracts effectively, and also there are dispute resolution. Yeah, in our case, in the contract, there is always a last clause in the contract, last statement in the contract that mention if there is a dispute, we will settle it through local court, yeah, through local court or through arbitration. Arbitration is outside court settlement, right? Yeah, so this is about FIDIC, right? So I think we almost come to an end, right? Uh, Maybe before we continue, there is questions, yeah, questions. Just guess, yeah. Maybe there is a case. For example, you need to begin work, yeah. You need to begin work immediately. That means you haven't had time to design your scope, yeah. So which contract type that you can use? Time and material, cost reimburse, or fixed price? Maybe you can answer this. How is it, Bu Fira? Time and material, cost reimburse, or fixed price? When you need to begin work immediately. And then you need to call a vendor, right? But the work is an emergency work, something like that. Yeah. So
If I may guess, maybe fixed price.
Fixed price, or you
Because
prefer fixed
you
price, yeah? The
because you pay what you get.
oh, you pay uh, uh, what is needed, yeah?
Hmm.
You pay what is needed. So this is called reimburse, cost reimburse. Yeah, so
Oh,
you tell the owner, I already bought this, bought that, and this is the receipt. Please reimburse to me, something like that.
oh, that's cost reimburse.
Yeah, cost reimburse, and the fee is of course will be paid to the worker, yeah, depending on the rates, approved rate, yeah, like maybe per day how much, something like that.
Oh, the difference between cost reimburse and fixed price.
Fixed price mean there is no more changes in the price agreement during the contract. For example, the contract duration is 6 months or one year, and we use fixed price. So whatever happens in the project uh, will be borne by the vendor, will be the risk of the contractor, yeah,
Hmm.
because we already agree at the beginning. So fixed
Oh, okay.
price is good if you know exactly the scope of work. Yeah, if both parties know exactly this is the most popular, yeah, fixed
Hmm.
price, most popular. Okay.
Uh, Pak Dana, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure about this
Yeah.
because we also have this in our contract, yeah,
Yeah.
fixed price, and also the lump sum.
Mhm.
That is two different payment method, right?
No, no, no. Actually, fixed price and lump sum is the same.
Oh, it's the same.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean unit price and lump sum.
Oh yeah, yeah. Unit
Yeah,
price is a
yeah, not fixed price.
yeah, yeah,
Ah.
yeah. Unit price is you agree on a unit price, yeah, in
Hmm.
the each item, right? Each item.
Yes. So,
There
if lump sum, sorry, this is in bahasa. Lump
is,
sum is the same as borongan, bukannya Pak?
yeah, 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 yeah. Lump sum
Oke,
is like borongan. Yeah,
betul ya Pak?
betul, betul. Correct.
Oke,
Yeah, yeah, correct.
oke, thank you Pak Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry, agak melenceng.
No, no problem, no problem. It's good. Okay. And then the third one is you are buying the services of a programmer. Yeah, programmer is an individual, right? To augment your staff. That means your staff is on maybe on a leave. Is She's on leave, and you want to replace him for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, yeah, with the part-time programmer. Yeah. So which contract type that we will use? Time and material, cost reimburse, or lump sum? Yeah, this can be quite tricky, yeah. But the answer is time and material. Yeah. You ask for their daily rate, and then uh, yeah, they will work only for several days, right? And you don't have time to audit, yeah, to check all the invoice, all the receipts, all the documents in the projects. Yeah. So this is also fixed price contract. Yeah. This is a fixed price contract. Okay, I think that's all, yeah, for the, let me see, let me see. Yeah, I think that's all for the materials, yeah, uh, for today. I will send you this, yeah, and maybe I'll give you time, maybe several hours or maybe tomorrow if you need some revision from the materials. I will try to revise, but if there is no revision, maybe I will just send the PDF and also the recording, yeah, of the of this short workshop.